Beautiful.
We live. Welcome to Facilitating Online Meetings with Training for Change. My name is Cleopatra. I'm going to throw it to Nicole, who's going to check us in further about what we're going to do today.
Cool. Welcome in, folks. It's good to have you here in the space. So we are just going to get warmed up on the chat box. Just like a note as we begin this training is that it's a training on training. And so everything that we do as trainers and facilitators in front of the room is actually available for you all to notice, to get curious about, to learn from, including like how we deal with challenges, what we're doing around tech, how we're sharing roles. All of that is insight for you all as you all facilitate online meetings in your own spaces. And so we usually like to start our sessions with warming up with the tools that we'll be using throughout the training. So we want to get you in the chat box writing in what's something in your surroundings that makes you smile. So I just want to get everyone in there, warming up, using some of these tools. We got picture of a sun and yourself. I love that, Aisha. Orchid, plant babies, letter, plants. A 9-pound poodle dog. Okay, Rachel. Lots of things in the environment. Pictures, kitties. That's sweet, Kelly. 1, 2, 3. Cool. So just waiting to hear from a couple more folks. There's another orchid. That's great. Sweet. Yasha is actually going to jump off. He joined us for the training last week and he accidentally just joined in again thinking it was going to be a different training. So we're going to say bye to Yasha. See you, friend. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just tracking to see, has everyone actually found the chat box? Because as a trainer, I want to know early on if we're going to be using the chat box throughout the session as a facilitator. Is this actually a tool that everyone's utilized so far? And so I've noticed that we're waiting to hear from a couple more people. So let's just, this is a 2-hour-long training. Yes, thanks for that question. And so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to track, we're going to use the raise hand feature throughout this training. And so I want to invite folks to find the raise hand feature. You should have the participants list open. If you haven't, you can click on that at the bottom of your screen. And then you will be able to just practice using the raise hand feature. Yes, thank you, Barb, Kelly, Rachel, Emily. Let's see more folks up in there. So just practice using that. Let's see. Great. And we're actually going to practice using this for our check-in question. And so we want to welcome you into this meeting. As you've arrived, we created a place for you at the table. And so Cleopatra, can you share the editable version? Because I updated it.
Yes, I can.
Wait.
1 second.
Oh, you couldn't find the raise hand feature. The raise hand feature, yeah, there you go. Cleopatra has it up right now. So if you click on, at the bottom of your toolbar, there should be a participants button. And when you have the participants button up, you should see the raise hand feature just under the list of all the people. Let Cleopatra or I know if you still can't find it. Okay, Adrian's got it, cool. Okay, so we, as you all arriving in, we created a virtual space together. If you want to go to the next slide. Yes. And this is our training space. And also this is our meeting space, since this is a training on facilitating online meetings. As you arrive, we created a place for you on the table. And when you're ready, what we want to invite you to do is raise your hand. And or you can click the star button. So if you are having a trouble reaching the raise hand feature, you can just click or you can type in an asterisk in the chat box, and it's kind of like a 5-finger high five waving. And that's also a way to signal that you've raised your hand. But we'll just go in order of folks that raise their hand and just share your name. So you'll share, my name is blank, and one quality I'd like to bring as a facilitator is blank. Okay, great. I see you, Olivia. And so one of the nice things about Zoom, if you use Zoom and you use the raise hand feature, is that it actually keeps stack of everyone who raises their hand in what order. So instead of being like, who should I call on because who was first, Zoom just automatically does that if you use the raise hand feature, which is actually really nice in group meetings, just to help facilitate conversation. And great, so I see a couple folks who are here, and let's start with Barb.
Hi, I'm Barb, and I like to bring flexibility when I do facilitation.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. Welcome to the training. And I see Rachel next, and then Hannah. And Rachel with, which Rachel raised? Rachel from Colorado.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
So Rachel Zatterstrom from Colorado, so Rachel Z. And one quality I like to bring as a facilitator is just really deep listening.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. Over to you, Hannah. And then the other Rachel, Rachel G.
Hi, I'm Hannah. One quality that I like to bring is motivation.
Awesome.
Hey all, I'm Rachel Gottfried from Oakland, and I'm not sure if it's a quality, but a practice is like tracking power.
Very important in our spaces. Thank you, Rachel. And then I just saw a quick question come in from the other Rachel, Rachel from Colorado. How do you tell the order in which people raise hands in Zoom? I didn't know it could keep track that way. Yeah, so when you're a host or a co-host of the meeting, it actually moves people up in the participant list in the order that they answered. And so what I'm doing right now is lowering your hands as you all talk, and then it puts you back into the queue. Great, thanks, Rachel. Over to Olivia and then Dahl.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia, and one quality I like to bring as a facilitator is patience. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nadal.
Hi everyone, this is Nadal, and one quality I like to bring is levity.
So important. Over to Lynette and then Michelle.
Hi everyone, my name is Lynette, pronouns she, her. One quality I like to bring as a facilitator is human connection.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and one quality that I like to bring as a facilitator is just seeing people for who they are.
Thank you, Michelle. And then up next we have Kim and then Jenny.
Hi, my name's Kim. I hope I bring inclusion of everyone who's in the room.
Beautiful. I'm just gonna change your name there too.
Hi,
Thank you, Kim.
I'm Jenny, and one quality I like to bring as a facilitator is warmth.
Adding to all that heat outside in the world. I love that. Beautiful. Over to Oriana and then Kelly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oriana, and one quality I like to bring as a facilitator is humor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly. And a quality that I like to bring is non-judgment.
Thank you. Oh, one small thing. This is just being a transparent facilitator. So Cleopatra, if you can continue sharing the edit version, then it can track, people can see moving the stars. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so that was Kelly, thank you. And then I see Christo next, and then Adrian.
Hey, I'm Christo, they, them pronouns. One quality I like to bring as a facilitator is empathy.
Beautiful, thank you, Christo.
Did you say empathy?
Yeah.
Over to you, Adrian.
Hi, I'm Adrian, and one quality I like to bring as a facilitator is energy.
Lovely. And then I see Manuela and then Emily.
Sorry about that. I was a little stuck in my tech there. Manuela, and I like to tell stories.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then go ahead, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. I like to bring curiosity to my facilitation.
Thank you. Very important in facilitation. And then I saw that since we started the check-in that Lucille joined, so I just added you around the circle. So if you want to share to this prompt, you're welcome to right now, and then we'll transition into facilitator introductions.
Sure. Hi, my name is Lucille, and a quality I like to bring as a facilitator is kind of opening space, keeping space open.
Beautiful. Thank you. And great. So I will introduce myself and then I'll pass it off to you, Cleopatra, and if you want to transition us into the next section after that. My name's Nicole Tanapong. I use she, her pronouns. I'm calling in not actually from Minneapolis, even though I put that in my Zoom. I'm calling in from somewhere in northern Minnesota near Lake Superior, where it's very cool. And I have been working with Training for Change for the last 5 years. And joined the online training team the last 3 years. And one quality that I like to bring as a facilitator is vulnerability and just a willingness to be vulnerable and transparent and imperfect is like something that I really try and practice. And I'm really excited to model that for you all as you all are thinking about your own facilitation and facilitating of meetings, to just embrace imperfection and embrace the humanness of what it's like to facilitate in groups, and also doing that in the online space. So that's me. Over to you, Cleopatra.
Hey y'all, my name is Cleopatra Jack. I go by Cleopatra or Jack or Cleopatra Jack and not Cleo. My pronouns are sir and her, and I am coming here from New York City. I actually work at another community organizing center during the night, I guess. That I do this in the day and night. And yeah, I am newer to the Training for Change facilitation team. And so today in the way that Nicole just said that they would like to model, I would also like to model hot mess realness, because I feel like that is like my jam. Like I feel really grounded in being messy and being efficient, because that's the best way to get results. And so that's what I am doing today. This is my 3rd time facilitating this training. And I just really want to embrace the messiness, as well as trying to still make sure that the participants that y'all are walking, are moving away with what you wanted from this training. So, and a facilitator quality that I like to bring is apparently humor. You can let me know at the end of this training if you thought it was funny. You could be put in the evaluations, you know, she really wasn't. Write that down. Write that down, Michelle. Write that down. Most important part of the training, hot mess realness. So great. So Nicole, and in my vein of hot mess realness, I'm going to transition back to present mode. Is my question to you. Oh, you're on mute if you're talking.
Oh yeah, I mean, you definitely can. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter really, because we're going to do sticky notes pretty soon too. Thanks for checking in though.
Thanks. We're also both cancers, and so I really feel like that is either great or, you know, something else. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the evaluation. So I'm going to transition us to the next slide, where I was scribing like I would maybe on a butcher paper with some markers if we were in an in-person space, but just transcribed a lot of what y'all were saying and how many of these qualities all put together make like the super team of like what a facilitator is. And just because you don't have all of these qualities doesn't mean that you're a bad or good facilitator. It just means you have a lot of different tools in your tool belt, and that we're here to give you some more today. Any questions so far before I move forward about, oh, actually I saw a question in the chat about like if we are using Zoom meeting / Zoom webinar. They definitely have some different features. Zoom meeting allows us to connect with y'all more and let y'all see each other as participants and not attendees. And the difference between a participant and attendee would be if you were just an attendee, you would just see me and Nicole talking to each other, and you really wouldn't get to engage with the other attendees in the training. Do you want to maybe add anything to that, Nicole? Oh, yes, TFC. Oh, that was a different question. But you have anything to add to that, Nicole? There's just 2 of us facilitating today. Yes. Yes.
I'm good. Go ahead.
Fantastic.
I'm just answering the question in the chat box right now.
Fantastic. Okay. So we're gonna move to our next slide, which is why we're here. And just like in any in-person meeting, you want to make sure that the tip to any successful meeting is knowing why you're calling the meeting and what your goals are. I think that is probably the #1 thing that people fall into a trap to, of like, you know what, we have to have a meeting about accountability, and you're like, I didn't know what I wanted to get out of it, so you walk away with nothing. And we want to be very specific and tight with what our training goals are and what y'all should expect from us as facilitators to hold us accountable to each other learning. So our top 2 goals for today are to be able to recognize key engagement approaches for online meetings with a special focus on decision-making, prep, and follow-up. And our second goal is to make sure that y'all acquire new tools and skills to apply in online meetings to increase their inclusion and effectiveness, including adapting those used face-to-face. So we already all, like, if you're not new to facilitating, you already have some things that can transcribe into like online facilitating spaces, but you might not know exactly how yet if you're new to this tool. And this training also is not specific to just Zoom. There are many ways to like have meetings online, and you'll be able to use a lot of these activities no matter what software you're using. Well, so our agenda for today in Eastern Standard Time is that we're starting right now. We did the welcome and setup, let y'all know how to use the tools that you have at your disposal using this Zoom software. We went over the goals and agenda. We're gonna talk about decision-making in online meetings. Then we're gonna have y'all just kind of practice and check in with each other about how you want to apply and design in your own context or wherever else that you're doing your online work in. We're gonna have some tactics that y'all can use for engaging meetings online. And then we're gonna give y'all some materials and next steps on how to just enhance your online facilitation past this training. And then we're gonna close at 4. So it's a 2-hour training. And yes, I think another reason too why we're here is kind of like Nicole said, we are gonna be very meta today. So like, as I am actually telling y'all what we're doing, this is also another way that you can kind of like incorporate an agenda in an online space. So people can, some people are very visual, maybe just now an email and agenda and just expecting people to use it on their own might not be enough. If you know your team the best, you'll know what works for them. So this is one way that you'll be able to see that and use that later on. And we'll be doing that for the rest of the training. Any questions so far? And just definitely opening up that, like, you know, you use the chat for anything, like to just really express emotions. Again, we're cancers. If you're like, this looks like it's gonna be really hard or really awkward or really tough, let us know in the chat, because other people might be feeling that same way too. And it's because it is awkward and it's hard and it's tough. And it just requires practice, and it just requires being transparent with the people that you're working with on what your learning and engagement level is. So feel free to use the chat to just like express your frustrations, your excitement, and whatever else might come up for you during this training. So what we're gonna do next is try to figure out what we want, kind of like what I said before, like what is the point of this? What do you want to get out of online trainings? And so we're gonna do a brainstorm. And so Nicole's gonna Nicole just put a link into the chat for y'all to follow, and it'll lead you to the slide that you see here. While we're working on this, as long as you can hear my voice, you don't necessarily need to have the Zoom screen up. You can just focus on having the slides. I know everyone has different tech like sensitivities. So let me know if you are able to get onto that brainstorm slide. It is gonna be slide 12 once you get into the document itself. And I'll just give a second for people to just catch up there.
And if you're having difficulty accessing the slide deck, you can also, I just dropped the question in the chat box and I can copy and paste it into a sticky note for you, which is another modification that we invite you to think about as you're having different access to tech and comfort level with technology.
All right. So everyone, oh, okay. All right. Slow down, anonymous chameleon. All right. Hold on. So yes. Thank you, you're already on the way. We're just gonna brainstorm right now. Think of the meetings that you have led. What are things that you try to accomplish in meetings? What kind of outcomes are you looking for? And basically, what are you trying to do when you do facilitating online in your context? And we'll give y'all a minute or two. See, there's a few empty sticky notes left. I know this group can really fill in all the sticky notes on the slide. And I'll just also go into, just to make sure like you're not, feel free when you're doing this too, it's always better to just increase the size of the shape that you're using, the Post-it note shape, instead of making your font smaller. Again, for accessibility, and I can help to reshape that. If you already are familiar with this tool, feel free to make your Post-its bigger, take up space until we run out of space. So I'm gonna make some words a little bit bigger. Okay, great. All right. I'll let y'all finish up the last couple of words you're writing. If folks, so Lynette, you put a question in the chat that says, how would you make this brainstorm accessible to people with vision disabilities? So you could also get off of mute and just vocally say like, hey, I would like this added to the brainstorm that we're writing up right now. And I, as a facilitator, or if you have like, if there are the participants who are able to take on the role of like maybe scribing for folks who aren't able to see as well, or who have vision disabilities, and we'll just scribe for you. It just depends on the team that you have. It depends on the space that you have and what disability justice politic that you carry into your work. So yeah, we gave a few options to give feedback. It was the chat. It was writing directly on here. And again, you can just verbally say, hey, I would like to add this to the chat. Does that feel good as an answer? All right. So we're gonna pause here. And what I'm gonna do next is Zoom Magic, or Google Magic, which is Black Magic. And I'm going to delete this larger shape that's hidden back here. And you'll see there are actually quadrants behind all the Post-its that you've been writing on. So what I'm gonna ask for y'all to do now is just kind of arrange all the Post-its depending on what topic each quadrant is covering. So you see there's assign roles, strengthen relations, share information, and then we have decision making. That's gonna be up here in the corner. Just gonna move this a little bit. Oh no. Right. I see that y'all are moving and shaking, so I'm gonna let y'all move and shake without me intercepting. But take a minute or two just to rearrange all of the Post-its. All right, I'll give it another couple of seconds. All right. And so when you're done, just feel free to unclick so I know folks aren't going to continue shifting. I can see right now as a facilitator, and y'all can also see too as participants, when something's highlighted, that means someone's working on a particular square. And it's a good way to know like, oh, if someone's finished doing something or something's about to change, especially if the internet is not letting you allowed to see like what's happening live in real time right now. So, great. So it looks like there are there's a lot of focus on sharing information and making decisions, not too much for assigning roles, and also maybe less for strengthening relations. But definitely making decisions and sharing information are definitely connected to each other. You need to share the appropriate amount of information for folks to make informed decisions in your teams and groups. So in terms of like facilitating online, we're going to focus on decision making today. And we want y'all to try out making different decision making models online. And so we're going to make a decision right now. So we're just gonna throw y'all in here. The way that we're going to do that is I'm going to go down to slide 14. One of my sticky notes fell into all the quadrants. You know what? And thank you for letting me know that. It's also really great too to let people know as much as, even if you think you might be over communicating, that's the level of communicating that you need to have in online spaces, because everyone is working with so many different tech, like software, Wi-Fi, bandwidth, whatever, science jargon. So I appreciate actually, Kelly, you sharing that. So that way it allows me to like make sure that I know what I'm doing when I'm making the next decision as we go forward. So I'm gonna have y'all make a decision, and y'all should all be on slide 14 at this point.
Can I say something quick, Cleopatra?
Yeah, sure.
Well, two things. One is that Sherry is here in the training. Welcome, Sherry. And Sherry is also on phone. And so I think it's a good way for us to model how we navigate when there's a hybrid meeting happening where like there's somebody on phone and there's people on video, which is something that I know I experience in my work and you all probably experience in your work with people just called in. And so just a higher level of just saying what's happening in the group or on the screen, and then also just like welcoming Sherry to come off mute to share. That's it.
Okay, great, thanks. Welcome, Sherry. I didn't see that you hopped on and that you're on the phone, so thanks, Nicole, for letting me know as my co-facilitator. So this is great. What I'll say now is we've done a lot of work, obviously, on the slides themselves. If you are having shared groups that have different connections to the technology that you're using, in this case, some people are on the Zoom app on their phones. Some people are maybe on the browser, on your computer, and someone's calling in on the phone. There are different ways for folks to still engage, and we might maybe share this slide with Sherry ahead of time via email. And so as we're talking on the phone, they would be able to go along on the slides, but we wouldn't necessarily see them doing that. We also want to encourage Sherry to come off of mute anytime that you have anything to say, but then you can also do *6 on your phone to raise your hand. It works the same way as the raise your hand function on the Zoom app and on the Zoom browser. So if you have anything that you want to say, you can press *6 on your phone, I believe. Is that correct, Nicole?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be able to see on the participants tool that you want to pause us to just interject and say something. And so again, with this too, we're gonna, so I'll ask you, do you, I guess, Nicole, do you wanna email Sherry do you have access to internet, to a browser, Sherry? Sherry?
I can also follow up with them because I have their information in the roster list. You can text them. Yeah.
All right, I'll move forward and just pause me again when we know what Sherry's engagement level could be. Cool. So great, we're back on slide 14. And we're gonna make a decision on how we're gonna focus on how we model decisions for the rest of the training today. So you'll see on the slide that there are 5 choices. You won't necessarily know exactly, you might tell from the title what activity it might be, but we also want to move forward and just be like, okay, this sounds like something that is gonna be really applicable for my team. So you're going to go to the little star cache in the corner, and you're gonna grab a star and put it next to the option that you want to be able to practice in today's session. Each person will have 2 stars, so you can maybe put both stars on something that you super like, or you can put 1 star on, like, maybe use a spectrum, and then another star on fun and fast delegation. And yeah, I think I'll give probably like a minute or 2 for folks to just hold that. If you also want me or Nicole to move a star for you, you can either private message us in the chat, or you can come off of mute and say it out loud, and I'll repeat the options again. So the first option is use a spectrum to see a range of opinions. The second option is using anonymity in online decisions. Option number 3 is using the time before and after your meetings. Option number 4 is silence is not consent. And option number 5 is fun and fast delegation.
And Sherry can see the slides, which is exciting. And so, yeah, let me know if you want me to move stars for you. Okay, great. I'll put one on silence is not consent. And you have another vote too, Sherry. So let me know where you want to put that one.
Dang, these all look so good, yes. And we'll be touching on, you'll see us be able to touch on some of these throughout the training as well. But again, we'll give you all the tools you need. There's a lot of tools on TFC's website that speak to each of these activities. We'll also give y'all materials for y'all to engage in these activities after the training as well. Great. So I don't see any more stars being highlighted to be dragged. Did everyone get a chance to move?
Can I say something about that, Cleopatra?
Yes.
So if this were an actual meeting and we were going to try and make a decision, one way I could tell that we are ready or not is that currently there are 23 people on the training right now. And if you have 2 stars each, that's 46 stars that should be present on this. which doesn't look like there's 46 stars. But we're not a group making a very high stakes decision. And so we're just going to roll with it. But that's just for you all to know that one way that you can figure out if you have everyone is like you could actually predetermine the number of stars if you know you're going to have 10 people at your meeting or 15 people at your meeting, and just say, great, we're waiting to hear from 3 more people. 3 stars are left. We haven't heard from the full group. And so that's another way you could also track whether the whole group is with you or not.
And it also would let me know too if I said the instructions properly, in case people didn't know that they had the option of using 2 stars to vote in this process. So if you only voted once with 1 star, please feel free to grab another star. And it's anonymous, well, except for Sherry. Well, we'll talk about that later too. But yeah, if you didn't get a chance to grab another star, we'll move forward. Please do that now, or else we'll just move forward and I'll start to count how many we have for each activity. So right now we have 4 for option 1, 3 for option 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tie. Okay, so I'm going to pull rank somehow. That's not a thing that we do in this training. But we're going to go with option 3, using the time before and after your meetings, which will be related to the poll that y'all took before you came into the training space today. And we'll do number 4, silence is not consent. Feel good? And if we have time, we'll do 5 if we're feeling really spicy, but if we're not, then we'll just have to move forward. Great. Do you want to?
Cool. Yep, I can take on. I was just going to do a time check to see. Super. Okay, let's go to slide 18. And for those of you who are like hoping that I will write or put the link in the chat box. There it is. What is the post-it stack for? What do you mean? Oh, are you talking about in the corner? Okay, so Lynette just asked a question. Cleopatra, can you just go back to slide 14 quick? Was that what you were talking about, Lynette? Like, why is there a, yeah, okay. So this is a template that we use, and the reason why there's like a little post-it stack is because maybe in your meeting you're like, oh, none of these options are right for the group, and so then you're like, well, we got to put number 6 over here. And so option 6 is we talk about jokes you can tell for fun. And you're like, great. That's the option that everyone actually wants to talk about, because that's what it feels live in the group. So that's just like why we have that there, is you'll actually get at the end of this training all of the templates after this that are blank and that you can just use and adapt for your own meetings. And so I like to have the post-it notes there just in case if there's like, oh, there's actually another idea that's emerging or another option that we should choose. So that's why that's there. Okay, but on with the main show. We're going back to slide 18. And so this is related to the survey that gets sent out to you before the training. And essentially the thing that we want to emphasize about this decision-making tool is that there's a lot of things that you can actually decide before your meeting if you gauge the group. So for example, we asked you questions around like, do you think having drinks in a meeting is okay? Do you think eating online is okay? Do you think even if you do eat online, what's your preference around camera? So, you know, this could be something to help facilitate a decision like, great, everyone in our group should feel free to have drinks during meetings. That's something we could just decide before the meeting because we got all the information. And if your group practices consensus or whatever, you know, whatever kind of model you use for like the threshold for making decisions in your group, we could just be like, great, that's passed. And so if you can go to slide 19, just to model show that. So this could be a proposal, like as a facilitator coming into the meeting, I might be like, great. So based off of the information that we heard before the meeting through the survey, we want you all to like minimize the sounds of eating or mute yourself. Try not to put food in your mouth directly when you're on the webcam. It's okay to turn your camera off to do other things so your eating doesn't distract others. Like feel free to drink during meetings. So we can like create actual decisions coming into a meeting. And so, but but the thing is that we're utilizing the time outside of the meeting to actually facilitate that. And so, you know, one of the things that is true for our groups that's live right now is that we're all kind of working from home and remotely. And so, you know, this survey was about, it's very low stakes for our group because we won't see each other again in the same formation. Maybe we will, who knows, destiny, fate. But it's probably unlikely that the same 23 people are all going to be in the same meeting. And so, you know, this is just a model to show you of like, here's what it could look like to create some group culture norms around eating and drinking and being on camera, off camera. And so we invite you all to consider that for your own team meetings. So with that, I'm just going to pause really quick and ask, does anyone have like reactions to that? Any ideas that you're like, this is making me think about how I could use this in my group? What do you notice about this approach? How might it be helpful for you? And so if you can find your way into the chat box and just write some reflections like, oh, this is like really helpful, or oh, this is going to take a lot of work. Lynette's blown away. Great idea. How about for other folks? This requires prep time. Yeah, it's definitely something that you have to prep. Helpful to build community agreements. Yep, that's a great adaptation. You could help generate community agreements outside of the meeting to help like influence the meeting space. I told my work team about your survey and we had a brief discussion about it. It was very helpful to create a sport. I love that you did that, Kelly. I love that you're proactive and being like, look at this survey. I'm going to take it to my team and be like, what's the culture around our team around eating and drinking and meetings? Love it.
Oof.
Facilitate a large and quiet group. This could be a way to give, appreciate the proposal has clear ways folks can add more ideas. Yeah, that's the other thing that we didn't talk about is like that the slide that Cleopatra is sharing. There's some like ways that you can add new ideas and like continue generating and building, not just like, great, we did this beforehand, we made a decision about it, but how do we bring that proposal to life and adapt it? So the one thing I want to say just about Oriana's comment about this requires prep time, it's like a great noticing. And we just want to say that whenever you're about to make decisions, like there's prep involved, right? Whether you're going to do that in person or you're going to do that online, it requires a level of like, how are you actually going to set the container is what we talk about Training for Change, for the group to actually make that decision well. And so with that, I actually want to pass it off to Cleopatra to talk about this dynamic in our groups, which is silence is not consent, and how we get underneath that.
So I'm gonna ask y'all to go to slide 20. I'll wait for y'all. And again, always thank you, Nicole. I wrote my mind. Yes, as like you missed the link or anything, you close it out. Feel free to just be verbal and like requesting the link again in the chat, but Nicole's really on top of just always providing that before we move to the next slide. So great, for silence is not consent. So to my homie Emily in DC holding it down, and you're just like, so hey, everybody, does anyone want to do something? And then everyone's like you grew a second head out of your chest, and like our face hugger just came out, and you're like, oh, I did. So no one wants to take a break. So I think that this is like a really regular dynamic in groups. And I also, this is usually what I would say in the intro, but I forgot today, is that right now, we are not only working from home or working remotely, that we are in a pandemic that is active right now. And we are actually forced to work from home right now to keep ourselves safe. So this is a little like, I think silence is not consent really helps with if you have a large group and maybe everyone always talks, but you might have the one or two people in the group who maybe never contribute, or they're like, oh, whatever, the larger group says whatever, but you're not actually capturing what your team might need that might be in like the margins opposed to what the mainstream of what everyone is talking about. There might be some margins that aren't illuminated because not everyone is giving the explicit chance to speak and communicate. Silence is also itself a type of communication, and it might be an indication that something might be wrong, right? So for me and the team that I work for in my day job, night job, I don't know, my team is very much like, if there is something wrong, people don't want to take up space, because I work with queer and trans people of color, and they're very much, we don't want to take up space. I just want to like move forward. Let's just do the work. And it's very important to make sure that there might be something that really would impact the whole group if we knew one person might be struggling with a particular option that we're giving in the work. And so like silence means a lot of things. It's really great to explore it. It's really great to let it live too. If maybe the team just wants to let the silence like exist, that's also a thing, but just be curious about it as you go into your teams. So what we're gonna do for right now is we're gonna choose what break we're gonna have. We're about to go on break in like 7 minutes. So I want folks to get back onto the participants tool, and you're gonna see an option for you to raise your hand. And whoever raises their hand first, Adrian. Also, hi, Adrian. What's good? Oh my gosh.
Hi, nice to see you here.
That's my friend from back in the day. Yeah, so Adrian's gonna go first, and I want you to vote on whether we're going to have A, a quick stretch break, or B, a 5-minute movement break away from your computer. I also see that people are raising their hands, and that's great. But let's pretend, right, like they were still in this team dynamic. And what we're actually gonna do is Adrian's gonna pick who goes next after them. I think this is really easy to do when you have like a team that you know, like 6 to 8 people, 6 to 10 people, because then we're also actively looking and connecting with people of like, Nicole, I would like to hear from you next, right? And it's not too much of a passive, like the queue is great for when you have really large groups, but also I think it's really important to get familiar with the shape of what your group is so that we're really talking to people, even though we're not right next to them. So I see everyone put their hand down. No shade to anyone who put
I'm
their
putting them down.
Okay, thanks. Okay, great. So Adrian, you can vote first, and then you'll let us know from the participants who's gonna go next, and so on and so forth. Cool?
Great. I vote for B, and I will call on Aisha.
Thanks, Adrian. Hi, all. I would also like to put in a vote for B. And I will call on Rachel Godfrey.
Hi all. I also echo B, and I'll call on Lucille.
I think we're getting to a trend. I am voting for B as well. I'm going to call on Hannah.
I would also vote for B, and I will call on Manuela.
Also a B, Olivia?
Thank you, Manuela. I also vote for B. And I call on Rachel without a last name.
Thanks, Olivia. I also vote for B, and I will call on Christo.
I vote for B, and I'll call on Barb.
I will vote for A, and I call on Kelly.
I vote for B, and I feel myself self-conscious about am I tracking people's names well enough to know who hasn't gone. So yeah, I'll call on Kim if she hasn't gone.
Hi, this is Kim, and I vote on B. And I'd like to call on Nicole. I think she hasn't spoken, I hope.
Are you talking about me, facilitator Nicole?
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. No, Minneapolis, Nicole.
Oh yeah, that's me. Also me. That's funny. Okay, I will do B, and I will pass it to Lynette.
Thanks, Nicole. I'll also do B, and I think Nora hasn't gone yet. Nora?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I am voting for A. And let's see, has Hannah gone?
Yep, Hannah's gone. It's like
Boy, this is-
Nadal. or Oriana?
Great, let's do Nadal.
I'll vote for B too and pass it to Oriana.
Last but not least, I will choose B as well.
I think we haven't heard from Jenny and Emily and Cleopatra, right?
Mm-hmm. Jenny?
Cool. This is Jenny. Yeah, I also vote for B, so I'll pass it to Cleopatra.
I will also vote for B.
And then just Emily, I think.
I'm voting for B.
Great.
B is in the house.
I didn't go yet. Sorry, it's
Michelle.
Yeah, B, but also B.
Fantastic.
Michelle.
Okay, so our vote is B. I think sometimes I've seen this training too, maybe someone being like, oh, well, we have again, 23 participants, and we have 13 votes, so majority wins. And that's like, you know, a thing that you can do if that is like your staff or team culture. But again, the point of this particular tool is to make sure that you're hearing from anyone, because the folks who voted for the quick stretch break could easily, like, we could make a breakout room for them to stretch on their own or something like that, to still make sure that we're giving people the things that they need to work efficiently and impactfully. So how do folks see, really quickly, I'll take one or two folks' like reflections on this particular tool and how you see this being utilized in your context.
And can I answer a question that someone,
yes,
a couple people asked? Cool. So people asked, how are you all tracking with the group this big on who and who hasn't gone? Any tips? So part of the nice thing about this that I love as a facilitator is that it actually puts the responsibility of tracking who hasn't spoken to the group, and it gets the group to take more responsibility to be like, whose voice haven't we heard from? I actually need to be more aware of that, instead of just taking like not caring about who we haven't heard from, because it's like, that's also the group culture that we're trying to get underneath, that people are just like, well, whatever, I don't know who hasn't spoken or not. And so I guess like part of that is that we have there's a moment where people are like, oh, I don't know who hasn't spoken, and having the experience of being like, well, do you want to care who hasn't spoken yet or track? But the way that I have done this in the past is printed out a roster of everyone that's on the training, and I have a little thing. But today I didn't do that because I don't have a printer where I am. And so I actually went back to the opening slide deck on 7, if you want to go back to that, Cleopatra, really quick. And I just like looked, I just put everyone's response around their names. And I'm so sorry I missed you, Michelle, because you were on the bottom when your star was just like right on at the end of your name. But yeah, that's how I was tracking it here. And I think that it will take a lot of time with a group that you don't know, but with a group that you're meeting with consistently, you can just be like, 15 people, you know who's in the group, you know their names, you know likely their voice if they've spoken or not, and that kind of facilitates it to be quicker.
Thanks, Nicole. I also think too, like, this is not something to use in like a one-time training, like we will not be in this formation again. Heard that the host can put in an asterisk in everyone's name once they have spoken. It's also, I'm not sure what that looks like. I think another thing that I've done though is ask everyone to raise their hand at the same time, and then just click off who has gone and who hasn't gone yet. Because even though y'all aren't able to see the queue, you can still see who has raised their hand or not. And so like y'all could also go to the participants tool and do that as well. Manuela, do you know if how folks have done that before, the asterisk piece?
Nope, that's why I asked.
If we figure it out before the end of this training, we will let you know. If not, again, like there are a lot of other ways to like track folks, and this taking as much time depends on like how intimate you know the group, and how well that people are also able to like function in this way, with short-term memory, right? So that's also an accessibility thing that you can think about for your group. But what we are gonna do is do what we said we was gonna do. One adaptation that I heard in last week's training was that people could all type in the chat box. Yes, people could also type in the chat box as well, but that still also requires someone to make sure that everyone has given some sort of like indication of what choice they wanted. So yeah, just lots of different ways to still track it. Boom, yes. Oh wait, they're Nicole. Hi. So great. What we are gonna do though is go down to slide 23 since it is 3:02, and I wanna give y'all a 5-minute break. So I'm gonna ask if folks can come back at, let's say, 7:07. So if you're on the East Coast, 3:07. For Nicole is 2:07, but the 07. And you can turn off your screen to go walk around. Don't look at another screen and then come here. Go look at no screens and then come back. Okay, rest your eyes. Goodbye. Fly off, my pretties.
I'm just going to pause the training too.
Thanks.
Okay.
But let's get back to the thing that we're doing. How are you playing music at the same time as talking? I'm loving it. So when you share your screen, you have an option in the corner that's very small, which is why a lot of folks miss it actually, that says share computer sound. And so it won't, like when you're playing music, usually it'll just cut in and out, and whatever is the loudest is what you'll hear, but you can share your screen to do that. I love sharing my music nowadays more as well because it just helps with group dynamic. You can use music to do a lot of things when you facilitate, so it's helpful. Okay.
Cool. Welcome back, folks.
Oh, whoops.
Yes, well, great. I was just making sure that that got answered. Yeah, it was just a typo. Ideally, we would want people to sign off the same day. Yeah, or whatever times that, it takes you to make your decision. So if you want to give it a week or whenever. Just responding to the question that Michelle dropped in the chat box. Okay, so we are going, hope you had great breaks. We're kind of coming into the application and closing part of the training. I know it's like about halfway, but now is really the time for you all to start doing some remixing and adaptation of your own context, which is always fun and exciting. And one thing I wanted to just quick show before we go into breakouts, Cleopatra, if you could go to slide 21 really quick, because I know that some, what's that?
I said sure can.
Okay, great. I thought you were like, no can do. I'm like, okay, let me just take over the screen sharing then. Okay, so I just wanted to just speak to this, and we're not going to go over it, but this is what we had lined up for the Fun and Fast delegation. I know that was a really hot third choice that people wanted to see. This is just a way of being able to track what are the different roles and tasks that you need to cover in your meeting, but it also could be a way to track like things outside of the meeting. So let's say, write a press release. And so we have everyone in the training to, assign themselves to something that they want to take on. And one really nice personal touch that I really love is like if you're in a team and you want to have your pictures as a way that you can assign people, and it can be a fun picture. Obviously, this is not what I look like when I go to work, but what I look like right now. And so just a nice personal fun touch. Some people like to do like baby photos or funny photos. Just a nice like sweet thing to do while everyone's kind of away and remote. So I just want to say that. Okay, do you want to go to slide 24?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. So we are about to go into breakouts, and you're going to be in trios. And right now Cleopatra is going to be prepping the breakout rooms for everyone, and I'll just give some instructions about what we're about to do. So in trios, we want you to discuss an upcoming meeting that you have and what is, what's an online decision-making method of the ones that we modeled that might support one of your agenda items. Why? How might you adapt it for the group? So really thinking about like how some of the tools that we demonstrated and you all got to experience, how could you remix that for your own context, for your own groups? What decisions do you have that you're planning to make in the upcoming week or two or whenever? And what do you want it to look like? So really we want to invite trying on, we want to invite experimenting. This is the place where you can feel like you can be creative and try out things that maybe you're scared to do and just like get feedback on it and just explore. This is a very yeah, we just want to keep inviting like the iteration creative process as you all are going out into your facilitation world. And so I just dropped it in the chat box. In Trios, plan for an upcoming decision-making process for an online meeting of your group. And you'll have about 8 minutes in your breakouts. And pretty soon you will see, when we're all ready to go, you'll see a pop-up on the screen with a blue button, and you have to click the invitation to join the room. When you're in your rooms, nobody who's in your room can hear you except for the folks in your group, and it won't show up on the recording. At the bottom of the screen, you should see a help button in your breakout room toolbar to ask for a facilitator to join you. So if you want any support, Cleopatra or I can join you. And at any time you can click the button to join back into the main room, but if you don't, you'll automatically pushed back into the main room after the minute is up. Does the question continue to show up in the breakout room chat box? Yes, it does. You won't see the screen share, but you'll see the chat box. Great question at all. Okay, super. So I'm just going to stop for questions, see if there's any questioning faces. Okay, so let's come back at 22 after. Actually, we have time, huh, Cleopatra?
Yeah.
Should we do 10 minutes?
Let's do 10 minutes.
Okay, so y'all are gonna have 10 minutes, so we wanna give you all that spacious time to think of all the creative ideas that you have for how you're gonna adapt it. So be ready to share when you come back, y'all. So we'll come back at 23 after, and we'll see folks soon.
Great. And you'll time you have left. In the corner of the top right-hand corner of the screen, it will be a countdown for you. So I'll open the rooms now, and off you go, hopefully.
Welcome back.
So thanks all for coming back. I do want to acknowledge that one group had some tech issues. We're gonna do like a group harvest share right now, but I do want to give that group priority to just check in first about if you had an idea that you wanted to share that came up in your brain. Talk to each other. And so, does anyone from that group, that first breakout room, want to take up some space right now in a good way? And you can raise your hand or just come off of mute if you're.
I just wanted to laugh at this moment, which is that Cleopatra, you sounded like you were DJ mixing yourself, and you were, because you just kept repeating. I don't know what happened. It was like a glitch in the sound system.
Oh my God.
Very much fit with your aesthetic. No, it was good. Yeah, everyone loved the remix, so everyone was into it.
God, praise. Okay, great.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. If no one from the first group is really particular to share first, anyone can honestly, you can go back to the participants tool and raise your hand if you feel like you want to share any ideas that came up for you in your breakout room. Lynette.
Thanks. So my group, we did a lot of noticing of like, wow, there's so much like participation and engagement we can really like push for with these Zoom meetings and with technology. It brings a different dynamic. Another thing that we were really thinking about is using that polls ahead of time to sort of do some of the pre-work before a brainstorm. It's almost like a warm-up. So that sounded really good. And then we all three had different, oh, sorry, I'm off video. All three had different sort of, we'll have to think about it type things on building consensus with big groups where everybody has different levels of engagement, how to get big groups to make sure everybody is actually participating, and then making big decisions when everybody has very different ideas.
Great, thanks. one more person want to share? What are some ideas that came up for you in your breakout discussion group?
And I actually want to ask Adrian to just come off mute and share a little bit more for, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like this happens kind of often in our webinars where we ask people like, does anybody have a question or does anybody want to share? And then there's just like crickets. And I just am curious if people have ways of, as a facilitator, like acknowledging that moment and moving beyond it in a way that's like less awkward. I don't know, like what we're typically like, okay, it sounds like nobody has, or whatever. Like, we'll, I feel like I would be curious to hear others like seamless transition from that moment.
Well, Adrian, if I can ask a question to you, you seem like an awkward individual. No, do you?
That's a statement. It's not a question. Yeah.
What things do you do when you want to communicate, but don't necessarily feel like verbally communicating? Like, what options do you wish you had as a participant?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like sometimes we should encourage people to like write a note to themselves. Like I haven't done that before, but usually the options that we give them are like unmute yourself or share in the chat. Usually people will, at least like somebody will share in the chat, even if no one wants to unmute themselves. But I think it could work to give people like, we're gonna give you like 2 minutes to reflect and then come back to share. Because otherwise it's just like very abrupt for them if they like, they don't know when that like volunteer moment is gonna come.
Well then great, that's what you do. As you can probably also observe in this group, when we went to do the brainstorm, every slide got used really fast. Like y'all filled out those Post-its really fast. So y'all might be more of a writing group than a verbal group. And then also, yes, you can try to direct message people. I always love to call on people because I hate when people do that to me and I want to be right with that in the world. But yeah, I think always giving that we have so many tools of being online that we don't just have to ask for people to speak verbally. And I think we can also be okay sometimes as facilitators not getting a verbal response and still moving forward with a different type of, oh, why don't you draw something? Why don't you, you can write in the chat, you can maybe ask for a slide to be made, like really take self-determination on what your learning is gonna look like or your participation in the meeting is gonna look like. So I think what you just said, you suggested something and you said that you didn't try it. So now I'm gonna have to hold you accountable and make sure that you try it in the future. But great suggestion, that's a great suggestion to me. Nidal, I saw your hand's been up for a while. So we'll go to you and then we'll transition.
Yeah, I just wanted to say in our group, I think a common theme that came up was also around the prep for different reasons. For some of us, it was because of the group that we are facilitating being very uncomfortable with technology. And so the need for prep on that end, also just appreciating the prep around like trying to get to decisions. So just wanted to highlight that piece around how the prep and sharing and gathering information ahead of time can be really useful. So that was really great. And one thing I wanted to throw out is this was specifically for me. I love all of the ways in which Google Docs and Slides have such great functionality, but do you all have suggestions for other platforms when we can't use Google? Specifically with some groups, they really don't want to use Google because of Google's like data access rights and things like that. So I've been struggling with that in some of my work of, are there other platforms that I could be looking into? Because yeah, when you can't use Google, it really throws you off.
I would really encourage if anyone has other platforms to put that in the chat. My nonprofit organization stuff, we definitely are concerned about surveillance on a daily basis because we are tracked by the state. We're probably identified as Black identity extremists and whatever the fuck like they're coming up with nowadays. So we're making an intentional transition from Google, knowing that they do work with the state and that they do surveil our data, to things like CryptPad. or documents that are connected to a cloud where you can have a password to get, like it's encrypted. It's an encrypted document, right? And so like you would have to have the password to at least get in. And even knowing still, right, like that the state, if they're looking to get your data, they will find a way to do it, but we don't have to just, we don't have to not fight about it. Like there are other options definitely to keep your information. And I'll try and find those links and share it in the chat and make sure maybe those are also emailed out as well if folks are worried about that component of Google. So I'll transition it over to Nicole to start to gather some more of ideas.
Cool. I was just writing in a next step at the end, so we could track that. Beautiful. So we are gonna we're gonna do another sticky note brainstorm, and so I'm gonna just drop in the link in the chat box really quick to the slides that we're on. So if you haven't rejoined us yet, great. And so we want to just generate a list together. So you all have done things in your facilitation. We have modeled things here today. And so we want to just generate together what are some ways in which you can maximize engagement when facilitating remote meetings. And so again, just double click on the sticky note and you can drop in an idea and really just put one idea or one way per sticky note. And then we'll take some time to look at it at the end. And again, if you're having trouble accessing the slide deck or you're just on the phone, if I were to model that, is that you can just drop it in the chat box and Cleopatra or I will copy and paste it in there. Or we would invite somebody to come off mute. Cute. I love how somebody is asking a very cute question. I feel like that doesn't even need to be a question. It can just be a thing. Whoever put that in there. You can definitely do that. It's a great adaptation of the opening question we asked. So keep generating, and if you run out of space on slide 27, you can go to slide 28 and add more, but we'll just spend the next 5 minutes here just generating. So feel free to just spend your time reflecting and writing. Great, Kim. I will add that in the sticky notes for you as I'm doing what that is saying. Responding to comments in the chat. Right. Keep adding. Again, things that you've done in your own facilitation that have maximized engagement, and also things that you've seen Cleopatra and I do in this training. So we're kind of doing a tools roundup together. I'm just going to add the sticky note brainstorm, which is something we're doing right now. Oh. Great. So sharing a document to work from. Have drawing / stars be a part of responding. Yes, you can notice that a lot of times in my meetings, I will have the stars as a way of people signifying their resonance. So like if somebody types something, I'll be like, oh, put a star next to the one that you also like agree with, or you just want to uplift and you also feel the same way. Great. Providing opportunities for introverts to participate. So I actually just wanted to pause really quick, just to pause the brainstorming. I know people are on both slides 27 and 28, and we're just going to be here for the next 5 more minutes. But I wanted to ask somebody who wrote that, the statement of, where did it go? Did it get moved? Oh. Asking questions. So that's a pretty simple one, but I'm curious, what kind of, for anyone in the group actually, what kind of what's the quality of the questions, or what kind of qualities do our questions have that we're asking you? Because like I hear asking questions, but like what kind of questions? What are the quality of the type of questions that we're asking? If anyone wants to share that, come off mute. What are you noticing about the quality of the questions that we are asking?
This is Jenny. I feel like the questions that you've been asking are, well, they're open-ended, and I feel like they're also curious. Like I feel you're training, so you probably know a lot of the answers, but that you're interested in, like, I could say something that you would find really interesting or surprising. Like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like curiosity.
Yeah, that's exactly, so in Training for Change, in our trainings that we do, we talk a lot about elicitive questions. And it's kind of this jargon word for essentially just peeling back the layers. And so part of our politics around education and learning is that the group actually knows a lot about the questions that they're asking and about the things that they're feeling like they need to know. So around facilitating online meetings, which is the training you all came here for, like you actually all know a lot about facilitating online meetings and the best practices of that. And we're just here to support, like we have tools, right? Like we've been showing a lot of the tools, but we also know that you all have a lot of wisdom. And so I loved how Cleopatra asked Adrian, like, what do you do? Or what would you do as a participant? And then we asked the whole group to generate, you know, or like resources. And there's just so many great things that folks were generating about how they prompt the group to engage. So yes, I just wanted to expand on that one. And then the other one, let's see. I'm just reading. So I actually want to invite everyone to take a moment just to read through the sticky notes, just to kind of scan and look. I want to ask whoever wrote, keep the concept simple. What does that mean? Or if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, that was me. I just find with our crew that there's just a very wide range of understanding about a situation. They'll have a different background with regards to experiences and knowledge on something. So if I need folks to kind of like, you know, bring it in and stop thinking about the big picture, just really keep it simple. So make the question that you're asking them just, this is what we're trying to decide right at this moment, and then do it step by step.
Great. Thank you, Barb. Yeah, I think as a facilitator a lot, I really focus on how to give the clearest instructions. That reminds me of that, of just keeping it simple. Like the prompt is this, you have this amount of time to do it. Do you have questions? Because I think as a facilitator, we can be like, and this, and then also this, and then this. And then the more we pile on, the more confusions, like, what are we supposed to be doing? What happened? What question am I supposed to be answering right now? So as much as you can be like as precise and clear about what you're asking of the group, the better. So just keeping it simple. I love that. Cool. There's a question in the chat. What is sociometry? Sociometry. So if you wrote that, would love to have you just write in the chat box what that is, because I want to invite folks again to go back into the brainstorm on slide 28 at this point, and just focus on what can you do before and after meetings to maximize engagement. So specifically, these are a lot of things you can do in the moment, but we also did talk about what you can do before and after meetings. So I want to invite folks to just keep generating for the next couple minutes, and then we will transition. Okay, so if I was facilitating a meeting and there was somebody on the phone, I'd say, okay, well, some of the things I'm seeing is sending out a pre-survey to inform certain parts of certain aspects of the meeting, include participants in agenda planning, have participants take on different roles in the meeting, having a co-facilitator is key, great. And so let's keep generating a couple more. And one thing I'll say before we transition to this next activity is that at Training for Change, we talk about how we should not talk more than 2 to 3 minutes in front of the group without engaging them. So it's a very concrete thing that I just love saying in this training, because we say it in our like online facilitation 101. It's one of our hot tips. But do not go beyond 2 to 3 minutes without engaging the group in some way. And so these are all different ways to engage this group: small group check-ins, breakout rooms, chat box, getting people on the slides for a sticky note, asking them for a question, doing journaling, self-reflection, just taking a moment for themselves, like Adrian was saying, just to be like, hey, think for yourself for a moment. What do you think about this thing? All of that is available. So what I'm about to do right now is I'm about to remove this white triangle from the corner of the screen, and I just want you to take 1 minute to just drop one of these suns next to one that you're curious about or that you want to try, one that you want to remember. So just drop a sun next to one that you're like, I actually want to remember this one, or I want to make sure to try it next time. So move your suns. Lovely. This is such a strong brainstorm. Cool. Take about 30 more seconds. Which one do you want to remember? Which one are you curious about? You want to try? People really love the music during breaks, yeah. I love playing music at the start of my meetings and at the end, and people loved it so much that they called it like the lounge. They were like, oh, the lounge music. It was like became this cultural thing where people are like, let's close the lounge down right now and start a meeting. That is such a thing. So yeah, like these sweet like practices or cultural practices that can help support like just like more openness in the group and a little bit more tenderness and sweetness. That's great. Okay, over to you, Cleopatra, and then I will be answering some questions in the chat box that are coming in. Oh, if you're talking, Cleopatra, we can't hear you yet, but I don't know if you are.
Oh yeah, no, I totally wasn't talking. That definitely didn't happen, and I thought everyone heard me. No, I didn't do that. Because that would be awkward, and no, I definitely did that, but it's fine. Okay, we're gonna start closing out, y'all. I'm glad that everyone has a tool that they're gonna practice with, low stakes. Also, you have probably noticed that I turned off my video, and that's just some like the tech gods today said that I'm not gonna have that high of bandwidth, and so just making sure that my screen is off so that way I have more bandwidth for y'all to hear me properly, and so I will also be able to hear you properly. So that's something that can help if you're having tech issues or having issues having a lot of tools up on your laptop just running at the same time. So we're gonna go into our agenda check. And this is something that if you are maybe a community organizer or you're maybe in the strategic planning session, you really want to know, did y'all do the things that you came together to do? So I'm going to put a check next to each one that we have done. We definitely did the welcome and setup. We definitely did our great introductions. We had our goals and agenda review at the beginning to let us know what expectations that we have for each other. We went over deciding, making decisions online. Y'all had a little bit of time to create and apply some of these designs in your groups. And then the tactics that y'all just put the sun next to, you were able to just like identify those and how to make your meetings more engaging and what you're actually going to try next too outside of this training. So what we're going to do next is our materials, just share what materials y'all will be getting moving forward and our next steps, and then we're going to do a closing. So as you can see here, we did everything that we came out to do. Rule number 1 for facilitation, don't jam pack your agenda because that it will just end sadness for everyone. It did go really fast, it goes fast, listen, but not if you're a facilitator because I'm just like, oh, there's the 8,000 things. Also just thinking there was something last week when we did this training and that there is actually a lot more that we're doing behind the scenes and you'll be able to know that more. Nicole's gonna give some information about the trainings that will let you know what we do behind the scenes of this 2-hour training. So let's go forward with.
Great. And so when you finish your meetings, oftentimes there's an agenda check, which is a great practice. And another great practice is reviewing your action items, right? Who comes out of the meeting with next steps? Mostly all of us, likely, unless if you're just there to talk about your feelings, which is also a really important meeting to happen. But usually we have even next steps after that. So these are our action items for this training, for this meeting. A lot of these things are assigned to one of our online coordinators, Jean, bless her soul. She will be sending you all the resources. You'll be receiving the whole copy of the slide deck. So everything that we generated, all the ideas that are here, you'll get the recording of this training. You'll also get a transcription of the chat. As you'll notice, I know somebody posted in like, it's really great how you're doing the caps with all the lines. The reason why we also do that is because when you get the chat transcription, you can see like what questions people are answering actually. So like you can look at the ideas and the resources that people are sharing. Time flies when you're just having fun. I appreciate people being like, wow, I can't believe this was 2 hours. We try and make it engaging so that y'all are having a good time. And one of the things that I know got talked about, I was writing this while Cleopatra was talking to y'all, was that there were lots of resources that she had about the platforms beyond Google, and there were other things that people generated around that. So I just added that as an action item that came out of this. Great. So we're coming in for a landing, and that means that I get to do the roundup of resources. So one of the things that I already said, you're going to get the whole slides from the session, the recording, the chat transcription, and you'll also get these beautiful template slides, which I'm just going to have Cleopatra just go through, and they're both in English and Spanish currently at this moment in time, and these are for you to utilize and adapt and change for your own context. And some of them you saw us use here today, some of them we didn't use, and so we invite more creativity as you look at them being like, oh, I'm actually going to do this. You can see we didn't do that one, but the slide roundup, sticky notes, other sticky note things, other spectrums. Those are all available for you to use in your own context. So we really welcome you to just adapt them. Always, I think they always say like template by Training for Change, but just like, you know, shout us out, because Jean and our whole online training team spent a lot of time creating them, and we love for you all to use them and for them to be out in the world. Secondly, we will be sending you out several links to handouts and resources. Our online library of training tools is really growing, and we've written a lot of resources in the time of COVID, in the time of everyone being remote about that. And then the last thing that I will say, Cleopatra, if you can go back up to the, what is it? 33 and 30, yeah, 33, is that we offer lots of support to groups doing all kinds of work. So these are public workshops that we offer, but we also work with groups on all kinds of things, including conflict, strategy, if you're wanting to navigate around grief and loss in your groups or staying grounded in your bodies. We offer lots of training support in all those ways with all kinds of social justice-based groups. And we have upcoming trainings that we are also offering. So this is the intro to facilitating online meetings. We have an intro to training online. We also have, let's see, we also have designing dynamic spaces, which is all about like visuals and body-based exercises, and yeah, colors is like a really big thing about that one too, just using visuals and colors, body-based exercises. And then my favorite training that we offer is called When Things Go Wrong, because things just go wrong. And so we just have a training about all the things that go wrong in trainings, and it's really fun. You get to model, you get to see a fishbowl happen online, which if you've ever done that in person, you're like, how do I do that online? But it's really fun, and you just get to talk about all the things that go wrong and just get better equipped with navigating challenges, both powered challenges, group internal challenges, but also tech challenges too. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that one. It's really fun. And with that, I will pass it to you, Cleopatra.
Okay, great. So we're gonna close out. We're gonna do a closing go around, but before we do that, definitely want to make a strong pitch for y'all to donate to Training for Change. Can you ask your question again, Lynette? Oh, sorry. Great. I want to make a pitch for Training for Change, and that's because I think Training for Change has invested a lot in me as a facilitator. I helped to co-run a nonprofit, and I would not have been able, I was not in that place before Training for Change. It's more than just learning how to facilitate. It's learning how to be in the movement and how to be with other people in the movement, and all of us trying to create a similar communication and narrative for us to be able to achieve our goals more efficiently. Because, this is my soapbox part where I'd be like, white supremacy is dependent on us not being able to talk to each other. And so this is the mode and way that we need to be moving, right, especially right now in this time, to be able to connect with each other in deeper and more intimate ways. And so I thank Training for Change for that. And so throw a couple of coins if you got them. I myself am a monthly sustainer because I does this. So I'm not gonna not give money to something I think is really important. I think something is important. Even if it's $5 a month, $10 a month, I'll put my dollar on it because it's important to me. And so if you enjoyed this training, if you enjoyed us, if you laughed at any of our jokes, if you were like, that was weird, still give us $10 or whatever, because then we'll figure out how to either be more weird or less weird, whatever you want. So yeah, just check that out. Donate to Training for Change. And then also please make sure to let us know how you feel by filling out the online evaluation form that Nicole put in the chat as well. We'll probably email it to you as well, because we really are able to adapt a lot of these trainings based on what people say, what they've gotten out of them. So great, that's my soapbox. So we're going to do our last closing go around. We have about 3 minutes. And so I'm going to say, if you can put your go around in the chat, which is, what's one thing you will do before your next online meeting? And it could be, hey, next time I do an online meeting, I'll drink water like these two people did throughout this training. Or I'm going to try maybe sending out a survey. Whatever you think that you want to create a pre-survey. Lucille's already on it, okay? First one out the gate, fantastic. Pick out some music. I thought you were actually telling me to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, fine. But yes, go pick out some music, figure out the music thing, slideshow activities. What else will y'all do next before your next online meeting? What's one thing you will do next before your online meeting? Donate to Training for Change, coins ahoy. Yes, no, I don't do DJing for a living. Please ask another queer person of color. Johnavy, actually, DJ Tikka Masala, go find that person on Instagram. They're good at DJ. set up some slides. Definitely, the people really feeling the pre-meeting survey. Fantastic. I am gonna put on some like elevator music for us. This is more twerk music. I think elevator music should be twerk music is why I say that. And I'll also actually try to see if I can share my whole a desktop so that way folks can see how I'm turning on the music. But please feel free to just keep sharing in the chat, say thank you. If you were like, oh, I really want to connect with this person, you know, send them that number, you know, or email address, no shade, you know, shoot your shot or whatever, 2020. But yes, please, 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 y'all, thank you so much. This has been such a great way for me to spend my Tuesday. Really breaks up the week, just knowing that y'all are more prepared to take on the world. Yes, such a great group. Let me try and find my SoundCloud, and then I'll do that.
I've tried to do it where I've tried to screen share showing the instructions for screen share and it doesn't show because you've already screen shared before you like.
Yeah, you're right. Or let's see. Let me put this song on.
Take care, y'all. If you want to stay. Yes. Nice.
You can't see my mouse doing this though. You see my mouse? No. This is like, I'm gonna stop the recording.